Thank you. And the next question comes from Marcel Munch with Domji.
Thanks a lot for taking my call. I'm a private retail investor in Huami, and I also cover and analyze Chinese stocks, including yours, on a YouTube channel. What you just heard is my introduction to the Huami Fireside Chat about a week ago, and I was invited to participate in this management call for investors with the CFO of Huami, with the CEO and the CMO. So it's quite an exciting opportunity. And first of all, I'm in no way related to Huami, and you may know on my channel that I have an investment in Huami, so I am biased here, so you need to do your own due diligence if you want to invest in the stock. But with this video today, I want to share you some of my insights that I've taken away from the Huami Fireside Chat, as well as an update on my views on Huami as an investment, and some, in my views, groundbreaking insights and news about Huami stock. So first of all, I was really happy that Huami took me onto the call and allowed kind of a voice of retail investors, because in my views, Huami has several problems. The first one is actually, and Huami recognizes that, is that in the investor landscape, Huami doesn't have much exposure. And the second one actually is, and that's my views, a big misunderstanding what Huami is about and how the company should be valued. So these are actually similar issues than Elon Musk was facing about Tesla years ago. And what Tesla and Elon Musk were doing then actually is that they actually also allowed questions from retail investors on their management calls, for instance, the earnings calls and so on, and in general just build a retail investor community. I'm not sure if Huami is going down that road, but first of all, they allowed me to participate in the call, so I hope maybe that it had some effects on the usual bank analysts and the investors in Huami, that they possibly also start changing their views. Because once again, in this call, I noticed how the thinking of those analysts about Huami is really kind of old school and outdated in terms of thinking about Huami just as a hardware manufacturer for wearables. So let me first summarize the call quickly, which you, by the way, can actually access if you go to the investor relations page, where you can listen to it again. So the basic and strong message by Huami was that they are not simply a wearables manufacturer brand. They outlined how Huami is actually about three key pillars. One is consumer electronics, the second one is data analytics, and the third one is actually industrial medical products. So regarding the consumer electronics, the CEO stressed the fact that Huami is vertically integrated, that they have their own R&D, their own chips and sensors, and that they are going to continue to upgrade the products and make them more and more competitive. What I think was the biggest insight and takeaway from the call was actually that they mentioned that they acquired a license for insurances in China. And this is relating to their second line, so the data analytics part on which Huami is about to make future revenue streams. And why I think this is super huge news is because of the fact that in China, business licenses are really, really important. It's one of the reasons why, for instance, NIO is outsourcing the manufacturing, because the manufacturing licenses, for instance, for producing cars in China are not easy to acquire. So in the future, Huami will be able to leverage their data capabilities in terms of all of the data that they're collecting about sleep and health and workout and so on, and possibly build their own insurance on top of that, or leverage it and collaborate with other insurance providers. So this is a huge future revenue stream. Now, a quick side note on that is that I found it funny that one of the bank analysts actually also asked during the call how big the market is for the insurances or other parts of Huami's businesses, because I think this is really the work that the bank analysts themselves should put into analyzing a stock, and it shows you that oftentimes the bank analysts don't even make this background research, and therefore it's not really surprising if they don't come up with price targets that are actually reflecting the potential and the valuation potential in a stock. For instance, when I analyzed the insurance business in China, I came to the conclusion that in 5-year time for Huami there would be a potential of generating around 1.3 billion in US dollars of revenue deriving from such an insurance business. And I don't want to go into the details right now, but you can obviously guess that this would be a massive revenue opportunity for Huami, and thereby also a big driver for the valuation of this company. So yes, I'm pretty bullish about the potential of Huami leveraging their data, making sense of it, and converting into revenue streams in the future. Then the third pillar was about industrial healthcare. So healthcare cost, for instance, in the area of medical imaging, is really expensive in countries like the US, for instance. And new X-ray and MRI technologies will be introduced in the future that makes it much more cost efficient. And so Huami is building new partnerships, for instance, with Aspen Healthcare Imaging and Promaxo, and is leveraging those in order to help those companies getting introduction into the Chinese market, but also developing new products together where they can leverage the AI and algorithm intellectual property that Huami has developed over time. So this new B2B business will be another new revenue streams besides the consumer electronics. And so to me, it's getting clear that Huami is much more than just this consumer wearable brand. But of course, those are big visions that still need to be executed on. And in the future, we need to see how well Huami can grow actually into these prospects. Now, I was also able to ask 3 questions during the call. And my first one was kind of a rhetorical question. I asked them to hopefully provide more KPIs in the future that are aligned with those 3 pillars, because right now in the earnings calls, it's all about consumer wearables. And yeah, that's not part of the overall vision. The second question I asked was about their capabilities in terms of software and algorithm. And Huami And the Huami CFO answered basically that it's all developed in-house, they acquired a talent, and it's all of their own R&D and intellectual property, which is quite important for me because, for instance, I'm really happy about the battery life of the Huami products, and that's due to the vertical integration between hardware and software. And I also see that, in my point of view, Huami still has some improvement to do on the software side. So it's good to hear that they have these capabilities in-house and can continue to work on that in the future. Then my last question was about this acquisition of a company called ad-hoc, which is traditionally in the hardware manufacturing, for instance, for TVs and so on. There are rumors about that this acquisition is actually a way for Huami to get into the national stock exchanges and markets in China, where only mainland Chinese are actually allowed to trade the stock. So that would be a way of tapping into the national resources of Chinese investors, basically. So this is basically still kind of an unknown for us, what it means in the future, and maybe a black box and an important thing that we need to watch. I don't know how it would affect Huami's stock price, for instance, if they would decide to also list their shares in the Chinese market only. But if we look at the stock price, and especially today, it's interesting to see that Huami has found some support about $13.50. So usually Huami was bouncing between the $15 and then usually going back to around $12. But seems like this time it's actually finding some recovery here. And I noticed that actually larger institutions are acquiring shares. The volume is up in the stock, and there's only a small float of around 20 million shares of an overall 60 million shares outstanding. So in the case that there will be more interest in the Huami stock in the future, that could actually result in a spike of the share price, maybe once we break through the $15 area again. But as you know, I've been cost averaging into Huami and recently also acquiring a couple of call options for Huami, which are unfortunately quite short term. Anyways, I think still that this is a big potential investment because basically the downwards risk isn't as high since the company is really low valued. So it still has some internal catching up to do. And just for only fully valuing the consumer wearables business, in my views. And then, for instance, all of those revenue potentials, for instance, about the insurance business, the data business, and also now the industry, medical healthcare services, these are, in my point of view, new revenue streams that in the future need to be valued into the stock as well. And so I do think there might be a really big potential in the future that this could be maybe a 10x or even more of an investment. So I stay invested. I know it's been going really long sideways, but I want to see where this can go potentially in the future. So I stay invested and will keep on covering here on my channel. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Please smash the like button as always, share it with the community, and leave a comment about what you think about Huami down below here, and then see you in the next one.